Chapter 14. Grandma de Sourouge. You know, people stay away from the bayou for a reason, Jamal started, but then he tripped over a ropey cypress tree root arched out of the soggy earth. He lurched face first toward a puddle, catching himself at the last minute. His face was 1 inch from the putrid, murky water. Mud splashed onto his clothes and face. He tried not to imagine what disgusting creatures lurked underneath the surface. "Hurry up and stop your gripping," Riley called out. She glanced back but didn't slow her pace. She was agile and sure-footed as she led them through the marsh. And it was a good thing she knew the way. Jamal was already completely lost. All around them spanned the massive wetlands. Brackish water that barely moved housed countless types of wildlife. Cypress and tubalo trees sprouted from the marshy ground. Though Jamal had grown up in New Orleans, he had never ventured this deep into the bayou. But Riley easily located the path that cut through the thick underbrush and led to her grandmother's hut. "Easy for you to say," Jamal muttered, gripping again. Even the path was hard to follow. "I've never been back here, and I'm starting to realize it was for a very good reason." "Hey, remember what I said about gripping?" Riley said. She's right," Malik rasped behind him. "Little Jay, you are being like a major wuss right now." "Even your bro agrees," Riley said, glancing over her shoulder. "Now hurry it up. It's gonna get dark soon. We don't have much time." Jamal felt sweat erupt on his forehead. He remembered the Shadow Man, surrounded by his creepy dolls, watching them from the gym's roof. She was right. They had to act fast. He cast his gaze ahead, feeling the muggy air slick his skin with sweat. Their surroundings were like an ancient jungle. Moss dripped off the cypress trees that stretched overhead toward the sky, while their exposed roots looped out of the wetlands. The sun was beginning its nightly descent into the horizon. Already the sky was stained pink. Clouds were building. Nights would fall soon, and with the coming darkness, the odds of them getting lost were higher. "Ouch, watch out," Jamal muttered as a branch smacked his cheek. It throbbed painfully. "Griping again?" Riley said with a snort. "Toughen up already." "Well, there are a few good things about being a shadow," Malik observed, trailing Jamal. "No shoes, no splashing in puddles, and pretty sure poisonous snakes can't bite me." What kind of snakes?" Jamal said, checking the marsh around his ankles. "Cottonmouths, copperheads, rattlesnakes," Riley said. "And don't forget about the gators, though usually they mind their own business, if you mind yours." "Just great," Jamal groaned. "What other horrors are lurking back here?" "Relax, I've come this way 1,000 times." She raised her arms over her head and danced a jig. "And look, I've still got all my limbs." "I feel so much better," Jamal said, not comforted at all. He marched forward anyway, following Riley. His brother, a dark smudge cast against the earth, trailed them. Malik vanished and reappeared with each patch of sunlight that filtered through the thick branches. Once the sun fell, it would be almost impossible to see him. Every time his brother vanished, Jamal felt a thump of dread. He worried that this would be the time Malik vanished forever. And then he breathed a sigh of relief whenever Malik reappeared. "Stay close," Jamal whispered to his brother. "I can't lose you again." "Close as your own shadow," Malik rasped back. "Don't worry, little Jay." Not only did his words reassure Jamal, but also his brother no longer seemed as angry with him. He was back to calling him Little Jay. Jamal felt a twinge of hope. Maybe if he did find a way to fix Malik, his brother would also find a way to forgive him. He could hope, could he? What other choice did he have? Riley, please tell me you know where you're going, Jamal said, trying to discern their path through the bayou. As it grew darker, it got harder to see. And that we're not totally lost? Of course not, Riley said with a derisive snort, not slowing her pace through the underbrush. The bayou runs in my family's blood. Some of us never left, like my grandmother. Her hut is just up this way, she said, tramping ahead through the standing water. Jamal followed her, less certainly. Water sloshed up to his knees. You trust her? Malik asked, startling Jamal. He still wasn't used to his brother being a shadow. He was nearly invisible in the darkness that was falling over the bayou. Do we have a choice? Jamal said, with his gut churning with fear. He was afraid, not just of the bayou and getting lost in whatever creepy, crawly, deadly creatures lurked underneath the brackish water, but also of what would happen if he didn't find a way to help his brother and reverse the shadow curse. Fear for his brother overwhelmed his fear of the bayou, so he kept plodding forward despite his discomfort. Right now, Riley and his grandmother were their only hope. As they continued, the sun descended, casting longer and deeper shadows across the swamp. Jamal could barely see the path. He strained his eyes in the fading light. Suddenly, something moved in the darkness. Jamal startled and whipped around. Something small and fast was moving through the underbrush. Thwap, thwap, thwap. And then the skull necklace started to glow. That could mean only one thing. The Shadow Man had followed them. Riley, look! Jamal yelled, holding up the skull. The reddish light illuminated the shadows, lighting up the bayou, and the button eyes started staring back at them. Pair after pair of creepy eyes. There were too many of them to count. Oh no, it's them, Riley yelped. She grabbed Jamal's hand and yanked him back, away from the staring eyes. Hurry! Run! But who are they? Jamal asked, struggling to keep up and not trip. The dolls, Riley repeated breathlessly, pulling him faster through the swamp. They belong to the Shadow Man's friends on the other side. He must have asked his friends for their help, and they summoned the dolls to do their bidding. Their bidding? Jamal said. Yeah, they're probably after that necklace, Riley said. We have to get to my grandmother's hut. She could protect us. Or at least, I hope so. Branches smacked his cheek as they sprinted through the thick trees, but this time Jamal didn't care. The dolls chased them, cutting through the underbrush. He could hear the rustling and splashing of their tiny feet. Shadows also reached out as if to snare them in their sharp claws. Jamal waved the skull necklace around, the reddish light warding off the shadow monsters and protecting them as they fled through the marsh. Suddenly, he felt something snare his ankle. He glanced down. It was the one of the dolls. It had its fingers latched around his leg. Its face, stitched with crude fabric, stared up at him. The button eyes looked empty. It stopped his blood cold. Get off me! Jamal kicked hard, but the doll held on. Then another doll leapt out of the cypress trees, landing on his shoulders. It scrambled for his neck, reaching toward the skull necklace. The necklace flared brighter in response. But the doll wasn't affected by the light like the shadow monsters. The thing snagged the necklace and pulled it, strangling Jamal with the chain. More dolls leapt at him, latching onto his legs, his arms, his torso, his neck. They kept jumping out of the trees at him. No, help me, he yelled. Smack! Suddenly, a branch whacked the first doll on his neck, sending it flying. Didn't you hear him? Riley snarled. He said, "Get off." She clutched the branch like a baseball bat, knocking the dolls off him. Then she grabbed his hand, and again they set off, running through the bayou. But the dolls chased them. Their tiny feet rustled the underbrush all around them. The dolls were almost impossibly fast. "Hurry, this way," Riley called out, pulling Jamal deeper into the swamp. They splashed forward and waded up their waists in the standing water. Jamal glanced around for his brother. "Malik, where are you?" There was no answer. Fear rushed through him like ice water. Riley glanced back at him. The reddish light from the skull necklace washed over her face. Terror lit up her eyes. "Listen, we have to swim," she hissed. "It's the only way to lose them." Jamal plunged deeper into the water and swam after her, trying not to think about the poisonous snakes and other creatures lurking all around them. The skull necklace led their way. "Watch out, little Jay," Malik rasped behind Jamal. Suddenly, two red eyes, glowing like embers, lit up in the black water. Then another set of red eyes. And another. What are those?" Jamal stammered, pointing at them. Then he saw their jaws crack open in the water. They were filled with rows of sharp teeth. They gnashed and snapped at the air hungrily. "Oh no." "Gators," Riley yelped. "But why are their eyes glowing?" Jamal asked. "They must be bewitched by the Shadow Man's friends on the other side," Riley coughed, sputtering on water. "That tree, over there. We have to get to it." More red eyes opened in the dark water and chased them. They swam toward a cypress tree that grew out of the middle of the marsh like a little island, but the gators were gaining on them. Riley reached the tree first and scrambled up the thick roots. His hand slipped, but then she hooked a branch. She reached back for Jamal. Their eyes met for a split second. "My hand! Grab it!" she yelled. He swam toward the tree, but the gators were right behind him. He could see the red eyes drawing closer. He held his breath and tried to swim faster. Desperately, Jamal reached up and grasped her hand. She yanked him up onto the tree right as a gator snapped at his ankle, almost taking his foot off. They scrambled farther up the roots, while the bewitched gators swarmed around the cypress tree, circling it and blocking any means of exit. Their red eyes glowed in the murky water. The sun had fully set, and the swamp was pitch black. They were trapped. "Malik, are you here?" Jamal called, feeling panicked that they'd lost him in the chase. "Right behind you," Malik rasped, "even though you can't see me." "At least we're safe up here," Riley said, clinging to the tree. "Gators can't climb trees." But then a gator scrambled up the roots. It snapped at them, and then the others followed, climbing the tree. "Wait, gators can't do that," Riley hissed. "How's that possible?" "These aren't normal gators," Jamal said, snagging her hand and pulling her up higher. He struggled to hold on, but his hands were wet from swimming and slipped on the slick tree bark. He plummeted down right toward a gator. It snapped at his leg. He scrambled away, but then slipped down farther. The gator opened its jaws, its teeth glinting in the dim light. Suddenly, a voice boomed out of the darkness. "Foul creature! Release them! Go back to your swamp!"